Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Query Solution. So today we are dealing with second session on the chapter Control and Coordination, and in today's session we are going to understand what is reflex action and reflex arc. So it will be a short video because we will be covering only this concept here, which is not a very detailed and elaborative concept but a very important concept, children. So let's start with our video. So how do you define a reflex action as? Let us first of all try to understand with the definition, because in our previous video we have discussed every detail regarding the structure of neuron, the types of neuron, and how does the conduction of information also happens through the neuron. So if you have not seen that video, I would first of all advise you to see that video, because that will give you a base to understand this video on the concept of reflex action. So what is a reflex action as we are talking about? So reflex action is basically a sudden, it is a automatic, sudden, automatic and an involuntary. I will talk on all these important keywords, but just note down the definition right now. So it is a sudden, automatic and an involuntary response to a stimulus, that is what we say as a reflex action as. So what all important keywords have we used in this definition? First of all, we are saying reflex action is basically an action which is a sudden action, means something that is coming quickly, and for something that you have to take action also quickly. Like maybe if you have touched a hot pan, now what will happen if imagine this is a pan mainly, or any utensil which is hot, and if I touch that, what will I do? Will I keep touching it and thinking, oh it's burning, should I remove my hand, or I'll quickly take my hand back? What will I do? I will quickly and suddenly take my hand back, right? I won't think about it. So this is what we are saying as sudden. Automatic means automatically the hand will be back, because we know that this is hurting us. We are not going to think, oh this is hurting, let me keep touching for 5 more seconds and then I'll do it. No, you won't do that, right? You will automatically take the hand back. So that's your key point number 2, keyword number 2, I'm sorry. And then important thing, it is an involuntary response. So a very important keyword, children. What do we mean by an involuntary response? So involuntary response means something which we can't control. If you are touching a hot pan, you just can't resist taking it back. You won't think also, you will quickly take it back and it won't be in your control. Automatically your hand will come back by hook or by crook, and that's what we are saying as involuntary, means something that our body can't regulate, something our body that we can't control. So all these 3 important keywords is what we define a reflex action as: a sudden, automatic and an involuntary response to whom? So to a stimulus. So we have already understood what is a stimulus and what is the response. We have also studied about the different stimulus with different sense organs and the names of receptors also. So again I am repeating myself, do check out the video of session 1 on control and coordination to know all these details. Okay. So if this is reflex action, then what do you mean by the term reflex arc? Is this something different, or what is reflex arc mainly? So let me first of all write down the definition, then I'll talk to you. So what is reflex arc? So the pathway followed to complete a reflex action is known as reflex arc. So whatever pathway, or pathway in the sense here we mean that whenever we are performing an action, as we discussed in the first video, it goes through a series of steps, right? From the receptors, it goes through the sensory neuron, then to the nervous system, then through the motor neurons, and then through the effector organ. So it takes up an entire pathway. So the pathway which is followed to complete one reflex action is what we say as a reflex arc. Okay, so reflex arc is basically nothing different, but the pathway through which a reflex action gets completed, that is what is known as a reflex arc. So let us now understand the concept of reflex action in detail, and are there any types or what are the cases? Let us see. So as you can see here I have drawn flowchart which is explaining us the concept of reflex action completely. So let me tell you children over here, there are certain reflex action which involves the involvement of spinal cord being the primary organ, and there are certain reflex action which involves brain as being the primary organ. And why does this change is there? So there are certain stages or there are certain situations that our body encounter where our body does not have time to think that what it is supposed to do. Our body has to take action quickly. Like in the example that you can see over here in the case of spinal reflex, where we are saying that the primary organ is the spinal cord to take the decision. So what is happening in this case? We are touching a hot pan. And what happens normally when we touch any hot utensil? We don't think, we will not keep the hand touched and we'll still think that okay, shall I remove the hand, okay, I'll remove it after 5 minutes. No, we won't do that. We'll quickly take the hand back, because as we discussed, this is going to be an automatic and an involuntary response that our body is going to show. So if we are talking about reflexes which are involving spinal cord into them, what is the pathway that happens? So let us see that. So the example as I stated you, it's a quick situation or it's a situation where a quick response is needed, like touching a hot pan. So what is happening in this situation? As we know, the stimulus over here is the heat source, right? And which receptor is going to detect the heat? So the skin, and we do know skin have a receptors which are known as thermoreceptors. So the thermoreceptors which are there in the skin will detect this heat, and quickly through the sensory neuron it will send the message to the primary organ being the spinal cord. Now what is spinal cord going to do? From here itself, as the message is coming to the spinal cord, it will quickly from the spinal cord itself will go from the relay neurons, motor neurons, and then through the effector organ which is our finger, will complete the action by removing the finger back. So in this situation, what was the case? We had no time to think. As I said you, we will not keep touching the hand, keep burning our fingers, keep burning our skin and think that all right, it's still burning me, let me take it back. We won't do it. We'll do it quickly. And in quick responses, we talk about spinal reflexes as spinal cord becomes the primary and the major organ here. Now, if we talk about cerebral reflex, so then what is this? So consider another situation over here, like you are getting a phone of your friend or maybe anyone on your mobile phone. So this is a normal situation, right? You won't act quickly as you did over here, right? It will be a normal situation. So what is the scenario here? Let us explore. So here the stimulus is the sound, your phone is ringing, and the receptors of your ears, which are your phonoreceptors, are picking up this sound mainly. Even your eyes are involved, but I am just taking ears as an example here, okay? Now these phonoreceptors, again with the help of sensory neurons, will now send the message to the important part of your nervous system here, which is the brain. Here it was spinal cord, and here in the cerebral reflex, the major organ is your brain. Now the brain will process that, okay, XYZ friend is calling, what am I supposed to do? So in case if you guys are sleeping, you might reject the call, you might cut the call, or you might think to pick up the call, whatsoever. But processing will be happening over here, and you are having enough time to take your own decision that you want to reject the call, accept the call, or do whatsoever with the phone that is coming. So your brain has taken enough time, enough processing is done. Then with the help of relay neuron, now through the motor neurons to the effector organs, the action will be completed. And in a case you pick up a choice, you take a choice to pick the call, what you will do? The information will go to the hand, and your hand will swipe the green button and you will pick the call. So here the situation difference is what I think you guys can understand. Here it was a quick response needed. That's why we spoke about spinal reflex, right? And here we got ample time to take a decision. There is no hurry-burry which is happening. We have enough time to process the information which is going to the brain, analyzing, and then doing the process or completing the action. So that is how we see that reflex action involves two major types. For quick situations where the response has to be quicker, it goes through the spinal cord. Where there is no time to process, a quick reaction is needed to protect your body. Spinal reflexes happen. And if the situations are normal, in that case, the brain being the major organ takes enough time to take a decision, and relaxingly you take decisions and complete your action. Just an important point I want you all to note over here. In spinal reflex, we are saying that spinal cord becomes the major organ. And yes, that's absolutely right. But that does not mean that the information will not go to the brain at all. Just imagine the same example. If you have touched this hot object, once quickly you would have removed. But what happened? Once you have removed, then the sense of realization goes to your brain, right? Then you start thinking, oh my god, this pan was so hot, it's kept on gas from a longer time, still I have touched it. Now, how are you processing this information? Because even after completing the action, the message goes to the brain, and brain will keep this as a memory, so that next time if you do the same thing, you would recall that no, last time I have touched this vessel, it was hot, I have to be careful this time. So the decision making organ here remains your spinal cord, but messages do go to your brain also, so that it stores a memory of the event that has happened. So I hope you guys are clear with what is reflex action and what is reflex arc. As I said you, the pathway through which this entire action is getting completed, especially this pathway, is what we say as a reflex arc. So I hope you guys are clear. As I always say, if you have a doubt, message to me in the comment section box. If you are liking my content, please share it with your friend. Give a like, show me in the comment that you're liking my content, and I'll be keep working for you more. So that's all for today's session. I hope you are clear. And until then, happy learning and take care of yourself, children.